everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Katie, and today we are going to be doing my May reading wrap-up. So again, I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you who joined in the Christian Fiction-thon readathon this year. It has been the first year that I ever did a readathon. I had so much fun, and I hope you all did too. So I'm going to do a quick overlap of the books that I chose for the readathon, and then I will put them into star ratings with the rest of the books that I'm going to talk about. I didn't put too many books on here. I did read a lot of Archie comic books and a few graphic novels, but nothing that really stood out to me all that much, so I decided I wasn't going to talk about those really, but they're more of a comfort read and a filler in case I just want to relax and read some comics or graphic novels. If something really sticks out to me, I would talk about it, but not really too much this time around. Okay, so for the Christian readathon, the first prompt was flowers on the cover, and for that one I read Tacos for Two by Betsy St. Amant. I actually just finished this about 11:30 p.m. last night. So I just squeezed this in time for the month wrap up, just barely, but I did it. This was all of these books are the original books that I wanted to read for the challenge, which I'm shocked that I did, because I wanted to switch this out for another book that I read just because I didn't think I was going to finish it, because it is a pretty big chunker book. It's like 367 pages, so it's a little bit bigger than an average book, but I got to it. Yay, I finished that one. And then prompt number 2 was With Blooms Come New Authors, and for that one I read In Search of a Prince by Tony Shiloh. Next was April Showers Bring May Murders, and for that one I read Fatal Strike by Diane Mills, and I did read it, and I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes. Okay, next one was Spring Cleaning, longest on my TBR, or over 6 months, and I read When Stars Rain Down by Angela Jackson Brown. And then the last prompt was Spring Fever, Read a Romance, and I read Daughter of Rome by Tessa Afshar. Okay, so for star ratings, I had no 1 star. I had 1 2-star, 3 3-stars, 3 4-stars, and I believe, yeah, it was 3 5-stars. So 1 3 3 3. So that turned out kind of nice and even. So the first one was my 2-star, and that was The Seven Dials Mystery by Agatha Christie. I buddy read that book with Miriam. I think she liked it more than I did. I'm new to Agatha Christie, so I'm just kind of figuring out which books I kind of like and I'm okay with. This one I think that there was so many characters that I felt a little bit sometimes confused. I feel like next time I read Agatha Christie, I'm going to write down all the characters in a notebook just so I don't get them confused throughout, because I think that was a little bit of my problem because I listened to an audiobook. But I did enjoy the storyline. It's about these friends who kind of play a practical joke on another friend, and they end up finding out that something's going to happen, and this practical joke turns out terribly wrong. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's pretty much the main plot of it. There's a lot going on in the background. And yeah, so this wasn't a favorite of Agatha Christie for me, but I will be continuing to try to read some more of her books. So the next book that I read was, for a 3-star, it was A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I really enjoyed the plot and the storyline, how this uncle and his nephew and a man from Iceland try to go to the center of the earth, and they follow in the footsteps of another explorer before them. And I really enjoyed the storyline, but there was a lot of terminology in here that I had a hard time either following or understanding, so I feel like that's why it kind of got a lower rating. But it was pretty interesting. I definitely will want to read more from Jules Verne, and I did rather like it going in audiobook versus physical copy because, again, with that terminology, I probably would have a hard time getting into it. Alright, so the next book that I gave 3 stars was, I had to find it, Fatal Strike by Diane Mills. I really thought I was going to give this more than 3 stars, but unfortunately it wasn't. I would like to try more books by her. I feel like I might enjoy other ones. So it's about these people who are being killed by a fatal injection of snake venom, and so they need to figure out who is doing this, and their suspect that they have goes into hiding and they have to try to find him. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would, as I really don't remember too much what it was about, which is unfortunate because the cover is beautiful and I feel like I would probably enjoy some more of her other books, but this one just unfortunately was not for me. And then the last 3-star that I had is over here. And that is The Tea Chest by Heidi Chivaroli. And I buddy read this with Amanda over at The Curly Reader. I will link all my friends' channels down below in the description box so you can check them all out. But we buddy read this together, and I think she gave this one 2 stars, I think, if I can remember correctly. But I gave it 3 stars. It's dual timeline about the Boston Tea Party and during modern times. And I started really liking the modern time version a lot, but then it kind of slowed down, and then I didn't like the back in the day during the Boston Tea Party. I didn't like the beginning, but I ended up kind of liking it by the end, so that was kind of weird how I was switching back and forth in which timeline I liked better. But it's about a girl who, in modern times, she is trying to become a SEAL, I believe. Yes, Navy SEALs. And she's trying really hard. She's like the only girl in the unit, so she has to prove herself and work extra hard. But then she finds a tea chest from the Tea Party times, and she finds a kind of note in the tea chest. And so she's trying to discover how the tea chest came into her possession and what the story is behind it. So that's this. And back in the Boston Tea Party, it's about this woman who is in like a privileged family, but she's in love with this man who kind of starts the Boston Tea Party with a bunch of other people. And so she pretty much just inherits herself from her family and decides to help them out. And it started getting a little bit better by the end, but again, it was only 3 stars. It was just okay. But I would like to try to read more by this author. And then on to 4 stars. So the first one is The Souls of Lost Lake by Jamie Jo Wright. This is actually our Christian book buddy read for my Christian book club last month, but I ended up getting sick, so I had to read it the last few days of the month. So I ended up reading this. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I know some of my friends DNF'd it, or there were a few trigger warnings for this book that they were unsure of, so that is totally okay. But I ended up really liking it. Some people thought it was too creepy, but I didn't think it was that creepy. And normally I have a low tolerance for horror or creepiness. So, but I really enjoyed this one. It's a dual timeline. This is my very first Jamie Jo Wright, so I will definitely be getting more into her books. But this one is about a girl who works at a summer camp, and there is a little girl who disappears, and they think that this girl who was found years and years ago coming out of the forest, supposedly murdering her family and carrying a bloody axe, has pretty much come back and is haunting the camp and kidnapped this little girl. So we learn what happened in the past, and did she or didn't she murder her family. And it was definitely creepy. So if you have like a really, really, really low intolerance to horror and creepiness, you might skip this book. But I didn't think it was too bad. I think it's kind of like some of Ted Decker's books can get a little creepy, so it's kind of like that. It might be a little bit more creepy than Ted Decker's books, but I really did enjoy this one, and I would definitely be picking up more. So the next one I gave 4 stars to is Daughter of Rome by Tessa Afshar. I really enjoyed this book. I actually listened to the audio because I wanted to make sure I got this one in, but it was really good. It's about a daughter of a Roman general who meets a Jewish immigrant, and she ends up falling in love with him, and they end up trying to bring Jesus into the places that don't have him, and they do run into a few dangerous situations. But yeah, I loved how the characters were imperfect in the story, but they trusted God and they learned that God loved them no matter what they did in their past. And it was just a really good story. I really enjoyed it. I actually really liked the minor characters too, about the little boy that they meet. And there's this really cute, clumsy, not really clumsy, but really cute dog in this story that I enjoyed. So this is a really good biblical era book that I think is really nice. And this is my first Tessa Afshar book too. So I will definitely be reading more by this author as well. And then the last 4-star that I had, which was closer to a 4.5 star. So, but that was Tacos for Two by Betsy St. Amant. I finally got to this book. It has been too long since I bought this, and I finally have it, and I loved it. It was so cute. So I can actually, this is like the thoughts are way up here because I just finished this last night, and now I can remember everything about it. So, except for names, apparently. Names just disappear as soon as I finish the book. There we go. Okay, so Rory is a girl who works in a food truck, and Jude is a lawyer. So they're kind of messaging back and forth in this secret app. And they've been talking anonymously. They know they both live in the area, but they've never seen pictures of each other. They've never met, and they love chatting online. They become really, really close friends there, and they're not sure if they want to meet or not yet. But they have met in real life. But they start to get a little competitive with cooking, and there is a food truck competition happening. It's a really cute meet cute, but there was a few parts where I was like, her anger issues could have been like, because this is Christian fiction, I felt her anger issues just needed a little bit more of asking God to help her with her anger issues. But other than that, I thought it was really cute, and I loved the character of Jude. I thought he was really nice. I thought he had a lot of problems and issues, but he really seemed to grow, and I loved his character. And the minor characters in this book, I loved the minor characters. I loved her friends, Grady and Nicole, actually I remember their names, who helped in the food truck and cooked and stuff. I thought they were sweet and fun. I loved Rory's cousin, Hannah. She has Down syndrome, and she was the cutest character. She might be my favorite in this book, but she was smart. She was so sweet, and you can tell she knew the Lord, and she pretty much helped like at least half the characters in this book, trying to help them realize, what's happening and stuff. And she could realize more in her surroundings than any of the other major characters in the story. So I really like this book a lot. Okay, now on to 5 stars. Oh no, one more 4-star. I forgot to put Tacos for Two on my list, but I did talk about it. Okay, last 4-star was, here we go, was When Stars Rain Down by Angela Jackson Brown. So I gave this one 4 stars. So this is 1936 Georgia, and it is about a girl named Opal who her and her grandmother work for a white family, and as she's walking home one day, she does get assaulted by someone. So if you're uncomfortable with that, you might want to skip this book. As a trigger warning, it doesn't get extremely graphic or anything because it is Christian fiction, but it is there just so you know. But she doesn't know who it is because her head gets hit when she falls down. And so they're trying to figure out what happened. And I was kind of hoping, I thought there could have been a love triangle a little bit in this book. And I was kind of hoping for the other main character the other male character in the book to win her heart, but it was the other one, which he was still a nice character, so I was okay with that, but I was kind of hoping for the other one. If you've read it, maybe you'll know. Okay, but anyway, so it's all about kind of living in the past. They do mention the Ku Klux Klan, although in the back of the book, I really thought it was going to be more of a major plot line, but it was more of a minor plot line to it. But it does happen where they come into the town and kind of disrupt the area a little bit, but it was good. My thoughts are a little bit scattered on this book. I do apologize, but yeah, so it was good. Just a few certain little parts here and there were just okay to me, so that's why it got 4 stars instead of 5 stars. So that was that book that I gave 4 stars. Okay, next up are my 5 stars. I only have one physical copy of one book. The other 2 I don't. So the first 5-star was The Librarian of Boone's Hollow by Kim Vogel Sawyer. This was actually my first book, I believe, for the month, so I have to rethink about what it was about. But it's about this girl who, she's going to college, but then she finds out that her kind of adopted parents aren't able to afford tuition anymore. So she is unable to work anymore, and it's unfortunate, but she ends up getting a job in a very, very small town as kind of a horseback riding librarian. So she goes there, and there is this other guy who went to the same college as she did, and he graduated and decides to come back to his old town to try to find a job there. But nobody really wants to hire him because he went to this kind of uppity college and wasn't part of the community anymore. So he had a hard time trying to find a job as well, and so he ends up working at the library with this woman. So I really enjoyed this book. I really liked the romance in it. There really wasn't too much romance in the beginning of the book. It kind of gravitated more toward the end, so it wasn't really romance heavy. Books are moving around my bookshelf. Okay, anyways, so yeah, there is a minor romantic plot, but it's not super heavy until really the end of the book. And I liked the small town feel of this book. I liked seeing another book about books and librarians and stuff. So it was really cute. I really enjoyed that one a lot. All right, and then the second book that I gave 5 stars to is actually our buddy read, which I don't have a physical book, but it is Under the Tulip Tree by Michelle Shockley. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I really, really did. And it's about this woman who ends up getting a job after the stock market crash. She gets a job to interview former slaves that were back in the 1800s. And so she goes to this woman who I believe is 101 years old. And she goes to her house and to interview her. So it's dual timeline, and it talks about what happened back during her slavery times and nowadays. Well, not nowadays, but like the 1950s-ish. And actually it's 1940s, maybe 1940s. I'm not exactly sure about the timeline for the modern times. But I really enjoyed it. I love how the characters developed in the story. I liked hearing more and learning more about slavery times, because I feel like not a lot of books talk about that too much anymore, at least to my knowledge. But I feel it's important to remember, and it was just really good. I really enjoyed that book, and I actually ended up writing to the author. I hope she writes back, because it was a very good book, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, and then the last book, which was my favorite of the month. I've talked about this book lots of times, and that was In Search of a Prince by Tony Shiloh. This was definitely my favorite book of the month, although Under the Tulip Tree definitely was a contender for it, because I did enjoy it, but this one definitely was my favorite of the month, In Search of a Prince. I love this book. So it's pretty much a Princess Diaries kind of retelling a little bit about a woman who just finds out that she happens to be the heir of an African island off the coast of Africa, and she has to go there. And then as she goes there, she tries to earn the council's not trust, but earn their respect and earn the right to become queen. And she finds out that she has to pick a prince in order to become the queen. So it's all about in search of a prince, trying to find a prince in time before she becomes queen. And it was just really beautiful. I love the faith content in this book. It was very strong, but done really well. It's not super strong where like they just added it in just to have it in there. It's done so beautifully and so well, where I love how the main character had a lot of faith and she talked to God all the time, and I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I definitely recommend this book. Okay, so those were my books that I read this month, and I had a lot of fun. I actually read more than I thought I would, because this month was just kind of chaotic with the readathon and stuff, but there's some of the books that I read this month. And so yeah, I really had a really great month of reading. Let me know what your favorite book was that you read this month down in the comments below. I would love to hear and talk with you in the comments down there. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.